Hi everyone and welcome to Fresh from My Garden. As you might have guessed from the title of today's video, this video is all about ferns, moss and monsoons. So this video is taken at the well in my father's garden, and it is filled with different varieties of ferns and moss. So you can see how deep the well is, and it is guarded by a very heavy duty metal ring and cover so that nobody accidentally trips over or gets hurt. So this is the beauty of the monsoon season, and this is something that we get to see only during the monsoons, when nature is filled with so much of greenery and there are so many different wild plants that are growing by themselves in our surroundings. So these are all in the walls, the cracks of the walls that are growing. There is a lot of different varieties of moss and different varieties of ferns and also some other wild plants. I've been wanting some moss for quite some time, and then doesn't grow in the place where we live, that is in Bangalore, because Bangalore doesn't have humid climate and constant rains for these moss and fern plants to develop by themselves. So this is usually seen in our hometown in Kerala, where you can see a lot of different varieties of moss, caladiums and ferns that grow by themselves out of the cracks of walls. Here we've been having constant rains for over a month, and just short periods during the day when the weather is sunny and it's not raining. So that is the time when I get to step out and forage for these ferns and mosses. Ferns and mosses are beautiful plants that don't require too much of care and are ideal for making terrariums, because they can stay in that enclosed space with a lot of humidity and moisture and thrive and look really beautiful for a very long time. We didn't have too much of time to go foraging for ferns, though we did see a lot of ferns as we were driving around to go shopping, but we didn't have time to go around and forage for those ferns. And there were also different caladiums that were growing wild around us. But since we didn't have too much of time to go around foraging for these plants, we are going to use just a couple of ferns and the moss that we have in my father's garden to make a little terrarium or a plant arrangement. The well in the garden has a lot of different varieties of ferns, but as you might have noticed in the beginning of the video, this well is really deep, and during this time the walls are really slippery and it's really risky to reach over and try to grab any of those plants. So we'll be just using whatever we can see here and what can be easily accessed. So these are the ferns that are growing in the backyard and not inside the well. So these can be easily removed from these cracks in the wall, and we can use this to make a beautiful little plant arrangement. So ferns are mostly moisture loving, humidity loving plants that grow well in semi shaded areas that receive some filtered sunlight. They won't do well in spots that have harsh sunlight throughout the day. So a little bit of morning sunlight or filtered sunlight during the day is just enough for these plants to thrive and grow well and look beautiful. And they also require a lot of moisture and humidity. So humidity is what make these plants thrive, and they are ideal for growing in bathrooms. So here you can see in the cracks of the wall, the roots don't go really very deep. They are just shallow roots that grow into those cracks and they can just be pulled out easily. It comes along with a layer of moss attached to them. But there are also some varieties of ferns that grow from rhizomes. So if we don't get those rhizomes, then once they are transplanted, they won't really grow well. So here I have foraged one variety of fern from my parents' garden, and this is going into a plant arrangement along with some moss and few other wild plants that are growing in the garden. This is another variety of fern which is also growing in the cracks of the walls in the backyard. So I'll be taking this also and adding it to the plant arrangement. So these are the two varieties that I could get from the garden, and there are few more varieties in the well, but unfortunately they are not accessible and I can't reach those. So just like these wild plants and ferns, we can also see a lot of moss growing in the garden around the walls, and they can be easily scraped off using a knife, and they can be used for decorating your terrariums or indoor planters as long as you maintain the humidity and moisture. They will stay fresh and look green for a long time. So all of this is being foraged from my parents' backyard or their garden, and we are going to collect all this and then create a little terrarium or a plant arrangement. So after collecting the moss, ferns and some wild plants from the garden, we are using a couple of glass bowls and some pebbles to make a soilless arrangement using these ferns and moss. I hope you enjoyed the rest of this video as we create this fern and moss arrangement for our indoor living space. We really enjoyed foraging for these plants, and it was a fun time that we had making this arrangement. So I do hope you like it too, and please do subscribe and watch my channel regularly for more gardening related videos, and also do share your thoughts about our videos in the comment section below. Thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of the video.